The primitive rockets streaked across the night sky, outmaneuvering the alien mothership with a grace that defied their crude design. It was 2045, and humanity's last hope rested on these stripped-down vessels, piloted remotely by a team led by John Evans, a 35-year-old NASA engineer. 72 hours earlier, the massive Breen mothership had appeared in Earth's orbit without warning. Its arrival marked the beginning of a systematic assault on human civilization. Military satellites fell silent. Advanced weapon systems crumbled. Power grids across the globe flickered and died, plunging major cities into darkness. John had been urgently summoned to the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. As he rushed through the facility's corridors, screens displayed the unfolding catastrophe. The United Nations had convened an emergency session, tasking NASA with developing a last-ditch plan to counter the alien threat. In a room filled with grim-faced officials, John proposed an audacious strategy, using a fleet of primitive chemical rockets as Earth's defense. His plan was met with skepticism, but with no alternatives, it was grudgingly approved. Over the next 3 days, John led a team of engineers in a frantic race against time. They stripped existing rocket designs down to their bare essentials, removing every non-critical component. The result was a fleet of 50 interceptors, designed for maximum acceleration and maneuverability. As the Breen continued their assault, disabling communication networks across the planet, John's team worked tirelessly. They repurposed old launch sites, adapting them for their makeshift fleet. The fate of humanity rested on these rockets, a fusion of desperation and ingenuity. From a reinforced bunker beneath the Johnson Space Center, John took control of the mission. The United Nations gave the go-ahead, knowing this was Earth's final stand. As the rockets lifted off from sites around the world, the alien mothership detected the approaching threat. Aboard the Breen vessel, Commander Wren initially dismissed the Earthcraft as inconsequential. The aliens' advanced technology had easily neutralized humanity's most sophisticated defenses. These primitive rockets seemed laughable in comparison. But as John's fleet began executing complex evasive maneuvers, Wren's dismissal turned to disbelief. The human vessels moved in ways that defied the Breen's predictive algorithms. Their approach vectors were unpredictable, exploiting weaknesses in the alien defenses that the Breen had never anticipated from a primitive species. The first wave of Earth's rockets penetrated the mothership's energy shields, catching the aliens completely off guard. John coordinated the assault from his bunker, guiding the rockets towards key systems on the alien hull. Explosions blossomed against the dark expanse of space as humanity landed its first effective counterblow. As the battle unfolded in Earth's orbit, John's unorthodox strategy put the technologically superior Breen on the defensive for the first time since their arrival. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, with Earth's primitive rockets proving to be the unlikely heroes in this interstellar conflict. In the bunker, John's fingers flew over the control panel, orchestrating the dance of rockets against the backdrop of stars. He knew that each maneuver, each calculated risk, could mean the difference between Earth's survival and its annihilation. The battle had only just begun, but already humanity had shown that it would not go quietly into the night. The Breen mothership shuddered as another of John's rockets found its mark, tearing through the weakened energy shields and impacting a critical systems node. Aboard the alien vessel, sirens blared and emergency lights flashed, bathing the command center in an eerie blue glow. Commander Wren's eyes narrowed as he surveyed the damage reports flooding his console. "Impossible," he muttered, mandibles clicking in frustration. "How are these primitive projectiles breaching our defenses?" A subordinate officer approached, datapad in hand. "Commander, our predictive algorithms are failing. The human weapons are unpredictable." Wren's tentacles writhed in agitation. "Adapt our defenses immediately. Concentrate all fire on those incoming projectiles." Back in the Houston bunker, John's fingers danced across his control panel, guiding the rocket swarm with practiced precision. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he watched the alien vessel's energy weapons spring to life, lancing out to intercept his dwindling fleet. "They're changing tactics," John announced to his team. "We need to switch it up before they neutralize our advantage." He quickly divided the remaining rockets into 3 groups. Alpha Group, maintain current assault pattern. Beta Group, initiate chaff deployment. Gamma Group, switch to decoy protocols. On the main view screen, the space around the Breen mothership erupted in a dazzling light show. Rockets detonated prematurely, releasing clouds of metallic particles that scattered the alien sensors. Others veered off in erratic patterns, drawing enemy fire away from the main assault force. United Nations Secretary-General Elena Rodriguez's face appeared on a side screen. "Mr. Evans, we're receiving reports of widespread panic in major cities. How much longer can we hold out?" John's expression resolute. "We've caught them off guard, but they're adapting quickly. I need more time." As if in response to his words, the bunker shook violently. Dust and small debris rained down from the ceiling. "What was that?" John demanded. A technician's voice cracked with fear. "Sir, the Breen are targeting the space center. Our surface structures are taking heavy damage." John's mind raced. They'd prepared for this possibility, but he'd hoped it wouldn't come to pass. "Initiate Protocol Omega," he ordered. "Transfer rocket control to the mobile units and begin evacuation procedures." As his team scrambled to comply, John established a secure link to the network of specially equipped trucks scattered across the country. He felt a pang of loss as he relinquished direct control of the rockets, but he knew it was necessary for the mission's survival. The bunker shook again, more violently this time. Cracks appeared in the reinforced walls, and the acrid smell of smoke began to fill the air. "Everyone out now!" John shouted, grabbing a portable data terminal. "Head for the tunnels!" The team raced through dimly lit underground passages, the sound of destruction echoing behind them. John's mind was already racing ahead, plotting their next move. As they emerged from the tunnel exit, a military helicopter waited on a nearby pad, rotors already spinning. John and his core team climbed aboard, strapping in as the pilot lifted off. Through the helicopter's windows, John watched in horror as the once proud Johnson Space Center crumbled under the alien assault. Tears stung his eyes, but he blinked them away, forcing himself to focus on the task at hand. "Establish a link with the mobile units," he instructed, powering up his portable terminal. "We need to coordinate the remaining rockets before the Breen can regroup." As the helicopter banked sharply, heading for a predetermined safe location, John's screen came to life with data from the ongoing battle. The chaff deployment had temporarily confused the alien defenses, creating gaps in their coverage. Several more rockets had struck the mothership, causing visible damage to its outer hull. "Sir," one of his team members called out, "the UN is requesting permission to launch our nuclear arsenal as a last resort." John shook his head emphatically. "Absolutely not. Our nukes would be useless against their shields, and we'd only be hurting ourselves." He turned his attention back to the battle, searching for a weakness they could exploit. The Breen's energy weapons were becoming more accurate, picking off rockets with increasing efficiency. Time was running out. Suddenly, John noticed a pattern in the alien ship's defensive fire. There was a slight delay, a fraction of a second, between the activation of their point defense systems and the targeting of new threats. "That's it," John muttered, a plan forming in his mind. He opened a channel to all mobile units. "Listen carefully. We're going to exploit a weakness in their targeting systems. On my mark, launch all remaining rockets in a tight cluster formation. As they approach the mothership, have them break apart in a radial pattern." John held his breath as he watched the last of Earth's makeshift fleet streak towards the Breen vessel. At the last moment, the tight cluster of rockets exploded outward, spreading in all directions like a deadly flower blooming in space. The alien point defense systems faltered, unable to track and target the suddenly multiplied threats fast enough. Over a dozen rockets slipped through the gaps, impacting the mothership's hull in rapid succession. A cheer went up from John's team as they watched massive explosions ripple across the alien vessel. For the first time since the invasion began, hope flickered in their hearts. But John knew the battle was far from finished. The Breen mothership, while damaged, was still operational, and now Earth had expended its last line of defense. As the helicopter sped towards an uncertain destination, John gripped his terminal tightly, his mind already working on the next move in this deadly chess game. The fate of humanity still hung in the balance, and he knew that his next decision could mean the difference between survival and extinction. John's fingers flew across the touchscreen of his portable terminal as the helicopter banked sharply, heading towards a secure location. The vibrations of the aircraft made it difficult to focus, but he refused to let his concentration waver. Earth's fate hung in the balance. "Sir, I'm picking up some unusual readings from the Breen mothership," said Sarah, one of John's top analysts. She swiped her finger across her tablet, sending the data to John's screen. John's eyes widened as he studied the information. "These energy fluctuations, they're not random, there's a pattern here." He zoomed in on the data, his mind racing. The mothership's energy shield was fluctuating in strength at regular intervals, creating brief windows of vulnerability. As he correlated this information with their offensive capabilities, a realization struck him. "The shield fluctuations coincide with their weapons discharge," John announced. "They're diverting power from their shields to maintain their offensive capabilities." The implications of this discovery were enormous. John immediately opened a communication channel to all mobile command units. "Listen up, everyone. We found a weakness in the Breen defenses. Their shields weaken every time they fire their main weapons. We're going to exploit this. Prepare all remaining rockets for a coordinated assault." John's fingers danced across his terminal as he input complex calculations, timing the rocket launches to coincide with the moments of weakened shielding. The plan was risky. They had precious few rockets left, but it was their best chance at turning the tide. "Launch sequence initiated," John announced. "May God have mercy on us all." On screens across the mobile command units, operators watched as the remaining rockets streaked towards the alien vessel. John held his breath, silently counting down the seconds until impact. The first wave of rockets approached the mothership just as its weapons discharged. Several projectiles slipped through the weakened defenses, detonating against the ship's outer hull. Explosions blossomed across the alien vessel's surface, eliciting cheers from John's team. "Direct hits confirmed," Sarah exclaimed. "We're actually hurting them." John allowed himself a small smile, but he knew the battle was just the beginning. He quickly recalibrated the approach vectors for the next wave of rockets, adjusting for the Breen's likely defensive maneuvers. Aboard the alien mothership, Commander Wren's tentacles writhed in agitation as damage reports flooded his console. "Impossible," he hissed. "How did they penetrate our shields?" A subordinate approached, mandibles clicking nervously. "Commander, the humans have discovered the fluctuation in our defensive grid. They're timing their attacks to exploit our weapons discharge cycle." Wren's eyes narrowed dangerously. "Reconfigure the power distribution. Divert energy from non-essential systems to maintain shield integrity." "But, sir," the subordinate protested, "that will significantly reduce our offensive capabilities." "Do it!" Wren roared. "These humans have proven more resourceful than we anticipated. We must adapt our strategy." As the Breen scrambled to shore up their defenses, John coordinated the next wave of rocket attacks. He watched with growing concern as fewer projectiles made it through the alien shields. "They're learning," he muttered. "We need to change tactics." Before John could formulate a new plan, the helicopter's pilot called out urgently. "Sir, the alien ship is on the move. It's descending into the atmosphere." John's eyes snapped to the main display. The massive Breen mothership was indeed dropping lower, its hull beginning to glow as it entered the thicker layers of Earth's atmosphere. "What are they doing?" Sarah asked, her voice tinged with fear. John's mind raced, analyzing the possibilities. Then it hit him. "They're going after population centers. They're trying to force our surrender." He quickly opened a channel to the United Nations. "Madam Secretary General, the Breen are entering the atmosphere. We need to evacuate major cities immediately." As the UN scrambled to respond, John noticed something peculiar about the mothership's descent. Its movement seemed sluggish, less precise than before. The atmosphere, he realized aloud. It's affecting their maneuverability. That ship was designed for space, not atmospheric flight. A plan began to form in John's mind. He turned to his team, his eyes blazing with commitment. We're going to target their propulsion systems. If we can damage their engines while they're in the atmosphere, they'll be forced to land. John's fingers flew across his terminal once more, redirecting the remaining rockets to focus on the mothership's engine ports. As the projectiles streaked towards their targets, he silently prayed that this gambit would pay off. Suddenly, an alarm blared from Sarah's console. "Sir, we're detecting another ship entering the solar system. It's approaching rapidly from the direction of Mars." John's heart sank. Breen reinforcements could spell the end for Earth's resistance, but as data began streaming in about the new arrival, his eyes widened in surprise. "The ship, it's not Breen," he said, studying the readings. "The design is completely different." Sarah nodded, her fingers flying across her keyboard. "Sir, we're intercepting communications between the mothership and the new vessel. They're not allies. The new ship is pursuing the Breen." John leaned in, listening intently to the translated alien transmissions. His mind reeled as he pieced together the implications of what he was hearing. "The new aliens are called the Zin," he announced to his team. "They've been chasing the Breen across multiple star systems. Earth isn't just under attack. We've been caught in the middle of an interstellar war." As the situation grew more complex by the second, John knew they needed to act fast. He opened a channel to the United Nations once more. "Madam Secretary General, I have a proposal. It's risky, but it might be our best chance at survival." John outlined his plan to use Earth's remaining communication satellites to broadcast a message to the approaching Zin ship, offering an alliance against their common enemy. The Secretary General listened silently, the weight of the decision evident in her voice when she finally spoke. "Mr. Evans, the fate of our world may rest on this gamble. You have the full authorization of the United Nations. May God be with us all." As John began composing the message that could determine humanity's future, his team continued coordinating the assault on the Breen mothership. The alien vessel, now struggling against Earth's gravity and atmosphere, began to lose altitude rapidly. Fires erupted across its hull, visible from the ground as bright flashes against the darkening sky. The Breen ship, once an unstoppable force of destruction, now looked vulnerable and wounded. Inside the mothership's command center, alarms blared as systems failed in cascading sequence. Commander Wren, his usual composure shattered, barked orders to his panicking crew. "Initiate emergency landing protocols. Redirect all power to stabilizers and life support." As the massive alien ship began its controlled descent towards the Mojave Desert, John redirected the last of Earth's rockets to ensure it stayed on course for the unpopulated area. He knew that the next few hours would be critical in shaping the future of human-alien relations and Earth's place in the broader galactic community. The helicopter carrying John and his team changed course, racing towards the Mojave. As they flew, John coordinated with military forces converging on the desert, preparing for a potential ground engagement with the Breen. "Status update on the Zin ship?" John called out, his eyes never leaving his terminal. "Still approaching rapidly, sir," Sarah responded. "Estimated arrival time, 47 minutes. John nodded, his mind already racing ahead to the confrontation to come. As the helicopter sped towards the Mojave, carrying the architect of Earth's defense to face an alien threat on the ground, the fate of humanity hung in the balance. The next few hours would determine whether Earth would fall, survive, or perhaps even find new allies among the stars. Stars as a potential harbinger of Earth's salvation or doom. The Breen mothership plummeted through the atmosphere, trailing fire and debris. John's eyes remained fixed on his terminal, tracking its descent. "Impact in T-minus 30 seconds, he announced, his voice steady despite the tension coiling in his gut. The massive alien vessel struck the Mojave Desert with earth-shaking force, kicking up a mushroom cloud of dust and sand visible for miles. As the helicopter carrying John and his team approached the crash site, he could see military vehicles converging from all directions, their headlights cutting through the settling haze. "Set us down near the forward command post," John ordered the pilot. He turned to his team, their faces illuminated by the glow of their terminals. "Sarah, I want real-time analysis of any Breen communications. Chen, coordinate with the ground teams to establish a perimeter." The moment the helicopter touched down, John was moving. He strode towards a cluster of armored vehicles where a tall, grizzled man in combat fatigues waited. "General Steele," John greeted, extending his hand. "Glad to have you on the ground." The general's handshake was firm, his eyes sharp as he assessed John. "Mr. Evans, your stratagem in orbit was impressive. I hope you have more tricks up your sleeve." "Several," John replied, gesturing to the holographic display projecting from a nearby command vehicle. "But first we need to contain the situation." As they huddled around the display, John outlined his plan for a multi-pronged assault on the grounded mothership. General Steele listened intently, occasionally interjecting with tactical suggestions based on his years of combat experience. Their planning was interrupted by a sudden flurry of activity from the crash site. The holographic display flickered, showing thermal images of movement within the downed vessel. "They're deploying," General Steele growled, reaching for his comm unit. "All units, prepare for engagement." John watched as the Breen emerged from their ship, their alien forms made even more otherworldly by the shimmering energy shields they began to erect around their position. Automated defense turrets rose from concealed ports in the ship's hull, their barrels tracking the movement of the human forces. "Sir," Sarah's voice crackled over the comm, "I'm detecting a pattern in their shield emissions. It's similar to what we observed in orbit. The shields fluctuate when they fire their weapons." John's mind raced, quickly formulating a new strategy. He turned to General Steele. "We need to coordinate our attacks with their weapons discharge. Hit them when their shields are weakest." The general nodded, a grim smile on his face. "I like the way you think, Evans." He began barking orders into his comm unit, directing the Special Forces units armed with the experimental anti-Breen weapons to take up strategic positions around the crash site. As the human forces prepared to engage, a new variable entered the equation. The Zin ship, sleek and angular in contrast to the Breen vessel's organic curves, descended from the sky. It took up position above the battlefield, its presence adding an air of uncertainty to the already tense situation. John's terminal chimed with an incoming transmission. He opened the channel, and a holographic image of a distinctly alien, yet somehow regal female figure appeared. "I am Captain Zarlith of the Zin Expeditionary Force," the alien announced, her words translated by John's advanced software. "We received your message and are prepared to offer assistance against our mutual enemy." John exchanged a quick glance with General Steele before responding. "Captain Zarlith, we welcome your aid. What can you tell us about the Breen defenses?" As Zarlith began to detail the weaknesses in Breen technology and tactics, John felt a surge of hope. With this new intelligence, they had a real chance of turning the tide. The battle began in earnest moments later. The night sky lit up with the exchange of weapons fire, human and alien technology clashing in a deadly light show. John coordinated the assault from the mobile command center, his fingers flying across his terminal as he directed strikes based on the Zin intelligence. "Target the leftmost shield generator," he ordered, watching as a team of Special Forces soldiers used their experimental weapons to exploit a weakness in the Breen defenses. The alien shield flickered and died, leaving a section of their perimeter exposed. General Steele capitalized on the opening, sending in a wave of armored vehicles to press the advantage. The Breen responded with a barrage of energy weapons, but the human forces had learned to time their movements with the aliens' firing patterns. Above the battlefield, the Zin ship provided crucial air support, its precise energy beams cutting through Breen defenses with surgical accuracy. Captain Zarlith's voice came through John's comm, calm amid the chaos. "We've disabled their main defensive array. Press your attack now while they're vulnerable." John relayed the information to General Steele, who led the charge towards the Breen Mothership's main entrance. The alien defenders began to fall back, their once impenetrable line crumbling under the combined human and Zin assault. As John prepared to join the final push into the alien vessel, his terminal lit up with an urgent message from the United Nations. His blood ran cold as he read the report. Multiple Breen ships decloaking around the globe, threatening Earth's major cities. He looked up from his terminal, his mind racing to process this new threat. The victory they were so close to achieving in the Mojave suddenly felt hollow in the face of this larger danger. John knew he had to make a decision, and quickly. The fate of humanity would depend on his next move. With a deep breath, John opened a channel to General Steele and Captain Zarlith. "We have a new situation," he began, his voice grave. "And I'm going to need both of your help if we're going to save our world. Planet, I need you both to listen carefully." John outlined the dire situation, his words clipped and precise. General Steele's face hardened, while Captain Zarlith's alien features remained inscrutable. "We're splitting our forces," John continued. "General, I need you to maintain pressure on this mothership. Captain Zarlith will need your ships to help defend Earth's major cities." "Understood." Steele nodded, already barking orders into his comm unit. Zarlith's multifaceted eyes glinted. "We stand with our new allies. The Zin fleet awaits your command." John's fingers flew across his terminal, coordinating the global response. He watched as red dots representing Breen ships appeared over major population centers worldwide: New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow, all under imminent threat. "They're targeting our infrastructure," John realized, studying the attack patterns. "Power plants, communication hubs, transportation networks. We need to deploy our forces strategically." He opened a channel to all allied units. "This is John Evans. We're facing a global Breen offensive. I'm dispatching joint human-Zin task forces to each threatened city. Use the Zin's transport technology to move quickly. Defend our key infrastructure at all costs." As orders were relayed and troops mobilized, John focused on New York City. The Breen vessel loomed over Manhattan, its weapons charging. "Major Ramos," John called out, connecting to the Special Forces team on the ground. "You're our first line of defense. Use those experimental weapons and give them hell." Sarah Ramos's voice crackled through the comm. "Copy that, sir. We're engaging now." John watched through satellite feeds as brilliant flashes of energy lit up the New York skyline. The experimental weapons tore through the Breen ship's shields, forcing it to retreat. Similar scenes played out across the globe, human ingenuity and Zin technology combining to repel the alien threat. Meanwhile, at the Mojave crash site, General Steele led the charge into the downed mothership. John received regular updates as the Human-Zin alliance fought their way through alien corridors, facing fierce Breen resistance. "We've breached the command center," Steele reported, his voice tight with exertion. "Securing high-value targets now." As John coordinated the global defense from his mobile command center, a priority message from the UN flashed across his screen. His eyes widened as he read the report. "This changes everything," he muttered, opening a channel to General Steele and Captain Zarlith. "We've had a breakthrough. Our scientists have cracked the Breen language. We can communicate with them." There was a moment of stunned silence before Steele responded. "Are you suggesting we negotiate, Evans?" "It's our best shot at ending this without further bloodshed," John replied. "General, I need you to secure Commander Wren and bring him to a neutral zone outside the ship. I'm calling for a ceasefire." John took a deep breath, then activated the newly developed translation software. He broadcast a message to all Breen vessels in their own language, calling for an immediate halt to hostilities. The effect was instantaneous. Across the globe, Breen ships ceased their attacks. John watched in tense silence as the red dots on his display stopped moving, hovering in place above Earth's cities. "It worked," he breathed, allowing himself a moment of relief before focusing on the next step. "General Steele, what's your status?" "We have Commander Wren in custody," Steele replied. "Setting up a secure area for negotiations now." John nodded, even though no one could see him. Good. I'm on my way. Captain Zarlith, I'll need you there as well. Your perspective will be crucial. As John prepared to leave the command center, a new alert blared from his terminal. He froze, reading the incoming data with growing alarm. General Captain, he said urgently, we have a new problem. Our satellites are detecting a massive energy buildup in the Mothership's reactor core. It's becoming unstable. Sabotage? Steele asked, his voice grim. Or a last-ditch weapon, John replied. Either way, we need to evacuate immediately. Get all our forces clear of that ship, now. As Steele began the withdrawal, John's mind raced. The reactor threat changed everything. If it detonated, it could devastate a significant portion of the southwestern United States. And now, with negotiations on the horizon, the Breen might use it as leverage. Captain Zarlith, John said, his voice tight with tension. Does your ship have any capability to contain or neutralize an explosion of this magnitude? Possibly, the Zin captain replied after a moment's consideration. But we would need time to prepare, and we'd have to get much closer to the Breen vessel. John weighed his options. The negotiations were crucial, but so was neutralizing the reactor threat. He couldn't risk the lives of millions on the chance that the Breen would negotiate in good faith. All right, he decided. Captain, begin preparations to contain that reactor. General Steele, continue the evacuation but keep Commander Wren secure. I'm going to try to negotiate with the Breen, but we need to be ready for anything. As John boarded a transport to the Mojave site, he knew the next few hours would be critical. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, caught between the threat of global invasion and potential nuclear devastation. He steeled himself for the challenges ahead, knowing that his decisions would shape the future of Earth's place in the galaxy. The Breen threat had been contained for now, but the real test was yet to come. The reactor threat changed everything. John's mind raced as he boarded the transport to the Mojave site. The unstable reactor in the Breen mothership posed an immediate danger that couldn't be ignored. He opened a secure channel to his command staff. Dr. Marcus Holloway, John said, his voice steady despite the tension. I need you to assemble a team of our top nuclear engineers. We're going in. Sir? Dr. Holloway's voice crackled through the comm. Into the Breen ship? Affirmative. We need eyes on that reactor. I'm also requesting Zin energy specialists to join you. Their advanced knowledge could be crucial. As the transport sped towards the crash site, John outlined his plan to General Steele and Captain Zarlith. We're running a two-pronged operation. Dr. Holloway's team will assess and address the reactor situation. Meanwhile, I'll lead the negotiations with Commander Wren. The Mojave Desert stretched out below, the crash site a dark scar against the sand. As they approached, John could see the massive Breen mothership, its organic curves now marred by battle damage. A perimeter had been established, with human and Zin forces maintaining a tense vigil. The transport touched down, and John strode out, flanked by his security detail. Dr. Holloway and his team were already waiting, their faces grim beneath protective gear. Remember, John addressed the engineers, you'll be under heavy guard, but this is still a hostile environment. Follow all safety protocols and report any findings immediately. As Holloway's team moved towards the mothership, John turned his attention to the hastily constructed neutral zone. A prefab structure had been erected, surrounded by a shimmering force field, a blend of human and Zin technology. Inside, Commander Wren waited, his alien features set in a mask of defiance. Captain Zarlith stood to one side, her presence a silent reminder of the alliance that had turned the tide of battle. John took a deep breath and entered. Commander Wren, he began, activating the translation software. We need to talk. Wren's eyes narrowed. I have nothing to say to you, human. Then listen, John replied, his voice firm. He laid out the situation, the unstable reactor, the global ceasefire, and the precarious position of the Breen forces on Earth. As John spoke, he received updates from Dr. Holloway's team. They had gained access to the reactor room, discovering a power core that defied Earth's current understanding of physics. The containment field is fluctuating, Holloway reported, his voice tense. We're seeing energy spikes that could indicate an imminent breach. John relayed this information to Wren, whose stoic demeanor finally cracked. You lie, the alien commander hissed. Our technology is beyond your comprehension. Perhaps, John conceded, but we can now communicate in your language. We've decrypted your systems, and right now your forces are sitting on a ticking time bomb. He presented Wren with data streams from the reactor, the alien symbols familiar to the Breen commander. John watched as realization dawned in Wren's eyes. What do you propose? Wren asked, his voice low. Cooperation, John replied. Help us stabilize the reactor. In return, we guarantee safe passage for your personnel to a neutral location. We can continue our discussions there, away from the immediate threat. As they negotiated, Dr. Holloway's voice came through John's earpiece. Sir, we've devised a potential solution. It's risky, but it's our best shot. We need to combine our experimental force field technology with Zin containment systems. But here's the catch. We need access to the Breen Central Computer Core. Their safety protocols are blocking our efforts. John locked eyes with Wren. Commander, we have a plan to stabilize the reactor, but we need your cooperation. Access codes to your central computer core. Without them, we're looking at a meltdown that will devastate your forces as well as ours. Wren was silent for a long moment. John could almost see the calculations running behind those alien eyes. Finally, the Breen commander nodded. Very well, but know this. If you betray us, the consequences will be severe. With Wren's agreement secured, John authorized Holloway's team to proceed. Breen technicians under heavy guard provided the necessary access codes. Initiating containment procedure, Holloway reported, deploying force fields now. John watched through video feeds as shimmering barriers of energy sprang up around the Breen power core. Zin devices pulsed with strange light, channeling excess energy away from the reactor. Power spike, one of the engineers shouted, the video feed filled with blinding light, then static. John's heart raced. Report, what's happening in there? Tense seconds passed before Holloway's voice came through, breathless but alive. Containment holding, sir. Barely. We need to expand the evacuation zone. If this fails... Understood, John replied. He turned to General Steele. Widen the evacuation perimeter. I want everyone non-essential at least 50 miles out. As the reactor stabilization efforts continued, John's attention was drawn to a new alert. Captain Zarlith's eyes widened as she received the same information. John, she said, her alien voice tinged with concern. Our long-range sensors have detected something. A massive fleet approaching the solar system. Breen reinforcements, far larger than the initial invasion force. The implications hit John like a physical blow. Everything they had accomplished, the delicate balance they had struck, could be undone in an instant. He looked at Wren, wondering if the Breen commander had known about this second wave. The alien's face was unreadable. Commander, John said, his voice low and intense. We need to end this now. A new proposal, immediate withdrawal of all Breen forces from Earth, exchange of technological knowledge, and establishment of a neutral zone for future diplomacy. In return, we guarantee your safe passage and a cessation of hostilities. Wren's eyes narrowed. And if we refuse? Then we continue this fight, John replied. With our combined forces, our new understanding of your technology, and the support of the Zin, can you guarantee the loyalty of your troops when they learn you risked their lives over a failed reactor? The neutral zone crackled with tension as Wren considered the offer. Outside, the skies above the Mojave filled with ships, human, Zin, and the hovering Breen vessels, all waiting to see which way the winds of war would blow. John knew that time was running out. The approaching Breen fleet could change everything. He had to secure an agreement now, or prepare Earth for an even greater conflict. As he waited for Wren's response, John's mind raced through contingencies, strategies, and the terrifying possibilities that lay ahead. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, poised between a fragile peace and the brink of interstellar war. War. The tension in the room was palpable as John awaited Wren's response. Suddenly, Captain Zarlith's communicator chirped. She glanced at the device, her eyes widening. "John, we have a situation. Our long-range sensors have detected a massive fleet entering the solar system. It's the Breen. Their numbers far exceed our initial estimates." John's stomach dropped. He turned to Wren, searching the alien's face for any sign of prior knowledge. The Breen commander's expression remained inscrutable. "Commander Wren," John said, his voice low and urgent. "Did you know about this?" Wren's eyes narrowed. "I was aware reinforcements were coming, but not their scale or exact timing." John's mind raced. The situation had just become exponentially more complex. He needed to act fast. "We need to end this now," John said, his voice filled with grit. "I'm proposing an immediate withdrawal of all Breen forces from Earth, an exchange of technological knowledge, and the establishment of a neutral zone for future diplomacy. In return, we guarantee your safe passage and a cessation of hostilities." Wren's antennae twitched. "And if we refuse?" "Then we continue this fight," John replied firmly. "With our combined forces, our new understanding of your technology, and the support of the Zin. Can you guarantee the loyalty of your troops when they learn you risked their lives over a failed reactor?" As Wren contemplated the offer, John activated his secure comlink. "General Steele, I need you to convene an emergency meeting with the United Nations Security Council. Captain Zarlith, please prepare your forces for potential defensive maneuvers." Within minutes, John found himself addressing a hastily assembled group of world leaders via holographic projection. He outlined the situation succinctly, emphasizing the looming threat of the approaching Breen armada. "Ladies and gentlemen," John said, his voice echoing in the virtual chamber, "we need to act now. I propose we create a formidable defense perimeter around Earth using our combined human-Zin forces. Simultaneously, we'll prepare a diplomatic mission to intercept the incoming Breen fleet." The chamber erupted in a flurry of questions and concerns. John addressed each one, laying out the details of his plan. After intense debate, the Security Council approved the proposal. As soon as the meeting concluded, John sprang into action. He turned to Captain Zarlith, who had been listening intently. "Captain, we need to integrate our forces immediately. Can your engineers work with ours to create orbital defense platforms?" Zarlith nodded. "It will be challenging, but we can adapt our energy weapons to your rocket propulsion systems. We'll need to work quickly." John activated his comlink once more. "Dr. Elena Rossi, I need you to coordinate with the Zin engineers. We're going to construct a network of orbital defense platforms. Use everything we have." As preparations for Earth's defense began, John focused on assembling the diplomatic team. He selected Admiral Robert Ramos to lead the delegation, knowing the seasoned naval officer's experience in high-stakes negotiations would be crucial. "Admiral," John said, briefing Ramos in his office, "you'll be accompanied by Dr. Emily Sato, our top xenolinguist, and Major Michael Okonkwo, who's familiar with both human and Zin combat strategies. Your mission is to intercept the Breen fleet and negotiate a peaceful resolution." Ramos nodded gravely. "Understood, sir. When do we depart?" Before John could respond, there was a knock at the door. A junior officer entered, looking nervous. "Sir, Commander Wren is requesting to speak with you. He says it's urgent." John exchanged a glance with Ramos before nodding. "Send him in." Wren entered, his alien features set in a determined expression. "I have a proposal," he said without preamble. "Allow me to accompany your diplomatic mission." John's eyebrows shot up. "You want to join the delegation?" Wren's antennae twitched in what John had come to recognize as a sign of affirmation. "My presence could legitimize the peace negotiations. It might be our best chance to prevent a full-scale invasion." John studied the Breen commander, weighing the risks and potential benefits. After a moment, he nodded. "Agreed, but understand, you'll be under strict security measures." As Wren left to prepare, John turned back to Ramos. "Admiral, your mission just got more complicated. Keep a close eye on Wren, but use his knowledge if you can. You'll be departing in 2 hours aboard a modified Zin vessel." The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity. John oversaw the deployment of the orbital defense platforms, each one a testament to human-Zin cooperation. On the ground, cities worldwide began constructing underground shelters and stockpiling supplies. As the diplomatic vessel prepared for launch, John received a transmission from Dr. Rossi. "Sir, we've successfully integrated Zin energy weapons into our satellite network. We've also deployed a series of early warning satellites to detect any Breen ships attempting to bypass the diplomatic mission." John nodded, feeling a small sense of relief. "Excellent work, Doctor. Keep me updated on any anomalies." As the modified Zin ship carrying the diplomatic team departed Earth, John turned his attention to the Global Preparedness Program. He coordinated with military leaders worldwide, overseeing drills designed to counter potential Breen invasion tactics. Hours passed, filled with tense waiting and feverish preparation. Then a signal came through from the diplomatic vessel. Admiral Ramos's face appeared on the screen, his expression grim. "Sir, we've made contact with the Breen fleet. They've agreed to hear us out, but—" Ramos hesitated. "John, the size of this armada, it's beyond anything we anticipated. Hundreds of warships, maybe more." John's heart sank, but he kept his voice steady. "Understood, Admiral. Proceed with the negotiations as planned. We'll hold the line here." As John ended the transmission, another alert caught his attention. Dr. Rossi's face appeared on a separate screen, her expression alarmed. "John, we're detecting unusual energy readings from several planets in the outer solar system," she reported. "Further analysis suggests Breen outposts. They seem to have been established before the initial invasion, and they're powering up some kind of advanced weapon systems." John's mind raced, processing this new threat. The diplomatic mission was in a precarious position. Earth's defenses were barely in place, and now they faced a potential attack from within their own solar system. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for the challenges ahead. "Dr. Rossi, redirect our long-range scanners to those outposts. We need to know exactly what we're dealing with." As Rossi's team began their analysis, John turned to Captain Zarlith. "Captain, we may need to split our forces. Can your ships intercept these Breen outposts while maintaining our defensive line around Earth?" Zarlith's alien features set in a determined expression. "It will stretch us thin, but we can manage it. What's our plan of attack?" John's eyes scanned the holographic display of the solar system, his mind calculating possibilities and risks. The next few hours would be critical. With the diplomatic team facing an overwhelming Breen armada and hidden outposts threatening Earth from within, the fate of humanity hung in a precarious balance. "We need to neutralize those outposts quickly and quietly," John said, his voice low and intense. "If we can take them out before they fully power up, we might have a chance to—" John's mind raced as he processed the multiple threats facing Earth. The hidden Breen outposts in the outer solar system presented an immediate danger, while the massive fleet approaching from deep space loomed over everything. He knew he had to act quickly and decisively. "Captain Zarlith, prepare a strike force to neutralize those outposts," John ordered. "We need to take them out before they can fully power up their weapons." As Zarlith began coordinating her ships, John's communication panel lit up with an incoming transmission from Admiral Ramos. The Admiral's face appeared on the screen, his expression a mix of concern and cautious optimism. "John, we've made contact with the Breen High Command," Ramos reported. "The situation is complex. There's division among their leadership. Some are intrigued by our alliance with the Zin, while others are calling for Earth's immediate surrender." John leaned forward, his mind already formulating a plan. "This division could work in our favor, Admiral. Keep them talking. I have an idea that might tip the scales." As soon as the transmission ended, John turned to Dr. Rossi. "Doctor, how soon can we activate the orbital defense platforms?" Rossi's eyes widened. "The systems are operational, but we haven't run a full-scale test yet. It could be risky." "We don't have a choice," John replied. "I need those platforms powered up and visible. We're going to show the Breen what they're up against." Within minutes, John's orders spread across the globe. Engineers and technicians scrambled to bring the massive orbital defense network online. As the platforms powered up one by one, a shimmering energy field began to form around the Earth, visible even from the ground. John watched the holographic display as the network came to life. The energy field grew stronger, a testament to human ingenuity and Zin technology working in harmony. "Captain Zarlith," John said, turning to the Zin officer, "it's time to reveal your ace in the hole. Bring the Zin homeworld fleet out of hiding." Zarlith nodded, her alien features set in perseverance. She transmitted a series of encrypted commands, and suddenly, the sensors lit up with new activity. From behind Jupiter, a massive Zin armada emerged, their sleek ships gliding into formation. John allowed himself a small smile. The sudden appearance of a second alien fleet in the solar system would surely cause confusion among the Breen. He hoped it would be enough to give Admiral Ramos the edge he needed in negotiations. But John knew he couldn't rely solely on shows of force. He needed to neutralize the Breen outposts quickly and quietly. He turned to a team of human and Zin engineers who had been working tirelessly on a secret project. "How are the modified rockets coming along?" John asked. The lead engineer, Dr. Patel, stepped forward. "We've successfully integrated the Zin cloaking technology, sir. The rockets are ready for deployment." John nodded. "Good. Load them up with the EMP warheads. I want those outposts disabled, not destroyed." As the engineering team rushed to prepare the rockets, John received another transmission from Admiral Ramos. "The Breen High Command is in disarray," Ramos reported. "They've detected our defense network and the Zin fleet. Some of their leaders are pushing for an immediate attack, while others are urging caution." John leaned in close to the screen. "Keep them talking, Admiral. We're about to change the game again." As soon as the transmission ended, John gave the order to launch the cloaked rockets. On screens around the command center, they watched as the invisible projectiles streaked towards the outer solar system. Minutes ticked by in tense silence. Then one by one, the signals from the Breen outposts began to flicker and die. The EMP warheads had done their job, disabling the outpost systems without causing widespread destruction. John allowed himself a moment of relief before turning back to the main problem, the approaching Breen armada. Suddenly, Commander Wren burst into the command center, his antennae twitching with excitement. "John, I've just received word from the diplomatic vessel. A faction of Breen scientists and civilians has seized control of several key ships in the fleet. They're offering to stand down in exchange for asylum." John's eyes widened at this unexpected turn of events. He quickly opened a channel to Admiral Ramos. "Admiral, I need you to negotiate with this new faction immediately. Offer them protection and the opportunity for peaceful coexistence. We need to end this conflict now." As Ramos began this critical new phase of negotiations, John turned his attention back to Earth's defenses. He coordinated with military leaders around the world, ensuring they were prepared for any potential breakthrough by Breen forces. Hours passed in a flurry of activity. Reports flooded in from all corners of the solar system. Disabled Breen outposts, the stand-down of rebel Breen ships, ongoing negotiations with the Breen High Command. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, Admiral Ramos's face appeared on the main screen once more. This time, he was smiling. "John, we've done it," he announced. "The Breen High Command has agreed to a ceasefire. They're willing to begin formal peace talks." A cheer went up around the command center. John felt a wave of relief wash over him, but he knew their work was not nearly finished. "Excellent work, Admiral," John said. "Bring the diplomatic team home. We have a lot of preparations to make." As the diplomatic vessel began its journey back to Earth, John turned to face the assembled leaders in the command center. Human military officers stood shoulder to shoulder with Zin warriors. Commander Wren, once an enemy, now stood among them as an ally. "Ladies and gentlemen," John began, his voice carrying the weight of the momentous events they had just lived through. "We've won a great victory today, but our real work is just beginning. We need to prepare Earth for its new role in the galaxy." As he spoke, John's mind was already racing ahead to the challenges that lay before them. The dismantling of Breen outposts, the integration of new technologies, the upcoming Galactic Summit. Earth was about to enter a new era, and John knew that every decision they made in the coming days would shape the future of humanity for generations to come. The command center buzzed with renewed energy as everyone set to work. Outside, the skies above Earth were filled with ships from multiple alien races, a sight that would have been unthinkable just months ago. As John watched this new reality unfold, he couldn't help but feel a sense of awe at the journey that had brought them to this point. But there was no time to dwell on the past. The future was calling, and John was determined to ensure that humanity would meet it head-on, ready for whatever challenges the vast expanse of the universe might bring.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.